Hi, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Cindy Rivera. I'm a senior research manager here at Blue Star Families. We're really excited today to talk about our new survey that has been live for about a week now. It is the Diverse Experiences of Military Families Survey. We are here collecting data on veterans, on military family members, on active duty retirees. We want to know what your experience has been as a military affiliated individual or family member. We know that there are more complexities to being part or being active duty or reserve uh, retiree when you are a person of color. And that's why we are currently fielding this survey from June 28th, last Monday, through July 28th. So we're asking as many people to come out. We'd like at least 2,500 survey respondents and as diverse as possible: African American respondents, Latino, Hispanic, Asian Americans, LGBTQ. It's really important that we get high numbers because on the analyst side, what I do, we're able to report better when we have a higher number. So we might be able to say active duty Navy Black respondents, whereas if we have a high enough number, if we don't, we can't get down to the granular level, which can sometimes help us. I can tell you that we learned a lot just in the launch of this survey. We did focus groups with a diverse collection of military spouses, veterans, to kind of give us an idea, well, what are those experiences like, and how can we form our questions to make it a very impactful survey? So I can say things like you might see something on the survey about geography, because we know that geography matters a lot for military family members, active duty. Where you get stationed can cause a lot of stress due to racial issues in the area you might be in. So we have questions specifically pointed at that. So when you go through the survey, which I hope you all do, and you are like, I wonder why they're asking this question. Well, most likely it came up in one of our focus groups. So we had small focus groups of 6 to 8 people, and they kind of told us some of their really rich experiences. And we ask that you do that with us too. And that would mean not only, checking the box your answers, but there's spaces where you write in your responses. And richer that is, the better we can be at reporting and actually looking at follow-up research for the future. Because this is just one piece of what Blue Star Families is doing to promote equity and inclusion. So that's my piece as the researcher, but we have a great panel today of other social equity impact all stars. And I just want to go through and we'll all introduce ourselves. And we have CT Moss, our director here of racial equity at Blue Star Families. Marla Bautista, who is a Army spouse and influencer, all things social media, writer, fabulous person. And then Koby Langley, who is a senior vice president at the American Red Cross. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you, CT, and you can take it from here.
Thank you, Cindy. I am so excited to be able to talk about such an important initiative. Cindy gave you a lot of great stats on why this is important. I'm here to really just kind of chime in with her to let you know that this is so important. And what's exciting to me about this is no one is doing this. No organizations are asking the questions that we are asking here at Blue Star Families because we listen. And I'm excited to have Koby and Marla join me on this platform as we kind of just talk about our own personal stories, how we're have been affected by this, and why we've all joined forces together and are collaborating on this important initiative. For those who don't know me, I'm a retired first sergeant. I just retired after 24 years of service. I was in the Army, Army first sergeant. I'm also now a military mom. So my daughter serves in the Air Force and my son is in the Army. And that is why it was so important for me to continue this service after I retire and being connected to the military community. As I have 2 lifelong investments that are continuing to serve. And just one of the things that I thought about as I was when I became a part of Blue Star Families, I started to reflect on some things that happened in my 24 years of service. And, nothing significant happened to me but to my son. And I remember being stationed in Mississippi. And you can already imagine saying Mississippi, what that could come, some of the details. And my son was racially profiled twice while he was there. He was 13 years old at the time. And he was about 6 feet tall, 13. But if you talked to him and had a conversation, you clearly knew he was 13. He was racially profiled in our own neighborhood twice. And that ultimately, I made the decision that I needed to send him home and that I no longer felt safe and feared for him in the community that I served. And so as I kind of learned more about this initiative prior to retiring, that really, I'm like, this is the work that I want to be a part of. This will continue to be my purpose and my passion as I want all military families to feel welcome in the community that they serve. Because we oftentimes don't have the luxury to choose where we're going to serve and where we're going to live. And so it's just so important that we band forces and we join communities, our civilian community, as well as our military community, and that we all want to just join in the journey and just feel welcome in the community that we serve. And so I'm excited for you all to talk to Koby Langley. He is our part of our all-star team on our Racial Equity Inclusion Committee that you can find if you go to bluestarfam.org. But Koby will tell you a little bit about how American Red Cross is a huge contributor with Blue Star Families on this important initiative. So off to you, Koby.
Thanks, CT. Thanks, Marla and Cindy. Absolutely. So American Red Cross is always proud and honored to partner with Blue Star Families. We are in the communities just as you're in the communities. A lot of the initiatives and efforts that we undertake over the course of the years of the past decade plus, we haven't really been able to get off the ground without the strong partnership of organizations like Blue Star Families that takes a very specific and interested relationship with our military families and helps identify gaps in services and opportunities to improve services to the military families that we serve. So it's great to be a part of this initiative. I think it's just one more, quill in our quiver, so to speak. And it is something that's timely and important and impactful. And it's just, I think, important to acknowledge that the discussions around the unique and perhaps sometimes not so unique needs of communities in color apply to our military members as well. When I was in the Army, the common saying was, we're all green because we're all wearing green. Well, not so much. Once we take that uniform off, and one of my first assignments was in the South, and we're in communities that sometimes are challenging for people of color. And we have to recognize those unique stressors to our military family members. And nonprofit organizations like the American Red Cross and other organizations that serve our VSO and MSO community need to understand what those unique challenges are and how we might be able to improve the services that we provide that help augment and supplant and supplement the work done by our Department of Defense contemporaries. The fact is that we have had a racial reckoning in the United States, and that those stressors impact our active component service members and the total force. Chairman Milley took that fact on head on not too long ago when he said that racism has no place in America and no place in our armed forces. And we must and we can and we will do better. He's been pretty clear about that, as has the Secretary of Defense. So I think it presents a unique challenge for all of us who are on this call to encourage all of you to ask your friends and your families to participate in this survey. One of the organizations that I was a part of when I was in the military was ROCKS. And ROCKS is an organization that helps uniformed service members of color create their own community of support to help identify those unique challenges, help navigate some tricky aspects of being a service member of color. And those types of organizations should also be a part of this effort and initiative. And so I'm call to action to all my former ROCKS team members that are out there to help share the survey, get the story out there, and ensure that we're managing the unique relationship that we have with our military community from a position of information and facts. That's why the survey is so important. I couldn't be more excited to be a part of this initiative.
Thank you so much, Koby, for that. We're definitely calling on the ROCKS. I do remember that organization. So next, I'm happy to introduce to you Marla. Marla is here with me in the Tampa Bay area. So we are trying to weather the Hurricane Elsa. So while we're here and we all have power, Marla, thank you for joining us, and feel free to share your story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. So as an Army spouse, race, equity, and inclusion is everything. I live it every day. As a military spouse of color, I am an African-American woman, and I'm also in an interracial marriage. My husband is Hispanic. And so it presents a lot of unique challenges for families that we often don't talk about within the military community. I volunteer very heavily within the military community. I volunteer for over 10 years. And a lot of the opportunities that I've taken as a volunteer aren't representative of me. They're not representative of my culture. They're not representative of my family. And so when I step into these roles, I try to open the door for other people like me to join these initiatives, to join these clubs, these groups, so that we can all serve together. But there is a big divide within our community, and that's not anything new. And we know this. We know that there have been issues with soldiers of color. Like Koby said, all the soldiers bleed green. That was kind of a saying that a lot of people, once lived by. But that wasn't always the reality of military spouses, of military service members of color. There's a lot of discrimination that we face within garrison and abroad. And so for my family, we really don't have an issue moving because we love moving. We love to experience new things, new cultures. We love to get to know new people. But there were times when, we did have issues. I can remember there was a time in New York, and this was within the community. A friend and I were just attending an event for Operation Homefront. And it was an amazing event. And we were driving down this really dark road going towards Fort Drum. And I was using the GPS because, of course, we all use the GPS. We never know where we are, especially when we first move to a new place. And so we were driving down this really dark street, and the GPS told me to turn into a gate going on to a military installation. Well, the gate was closed. I had no idea, and so I made a U-turn. As soon as I made a U-turn, the lights from a police car turned on, and I was afraid. And I was, I'm an African-American woman, and my friend who was riding with me was a woman of Hispanic descent. She was Puerto Rican. And so she starts talking, and she's like so upset. And I'm like, please don't speak Spanish. And I'm like, that's not okay. This is not okay that I fear for my friend who is speaking Spanish, because we're in this neighborhood that we've never been to before, and we're on this dark road, and we're two women alone. And so I'm like, hey, just calm down, we're okay. And I'm literally shaking. And it was this fear that came over me that no one should ever have to experience, no matter where you live, no matter where you go. We should be welcomed. And that's something that we haven't always been able to do. And we need to be able to have these conversations, not only within the military community, but outside the gates as well. What happens outside the gates affects our lives as military families, because oftentimes, especially now, a lot of us are living outside the military gates. A lot of us are sending our children to school outside the military gates. And so not only does the world on post affect us, but also off post as well. But as a community member, as a volunteer, I would love to see programs that represent me, that represent my culture, that represent the culture of my friends. More Spanish speaking programs that are representative of who we really are as a military community. There are so many of us that are not of Caucasian descent. There are so many of us that come from all around the world. Why not embrace that? And not only embrace it on Hispanic Heritage Month or African American History Month, but let's embrace it 365 or 366 if it's a leap year. But let's embrace those cultures every day within our communities, within our military community. Offer programs for everyone. And that's something that we haven't done. And I get it. There's a lot of people that will say, well, we don't have the capacity to do that. But that's not true. That's not true. We have the capacity to care for all of our service members and their families. It's if we're willing to take the time to do so, that's where we need to be. We need to be at a place where, like Koby said, there has been a racial reckoning within our country. And it's not just about race. It's all of us. It's all of our diverse community members. It's, people with different ethnicities. It's with people of different backgrounds, LGBTQ. We need to know everyone. We need to know who we serve for, why we're serving, and who their family members are, because they all matter. And that's something that, I can't scream loud enough. We all matter. Whether you're a Muslim, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Black, whether you're from India, we all matter and we all serve together. And when we say we bleed green, then we should all bleed green. But let's make it more than just a saying. When General Milley spoke, and I've met him a number of times, and when he spoke on that panel and he said, I want to understand white rage, and I'm white. That to me was the epitome of a military leader, because he's saying, I don't have all the answers, but I am willing to learn. And that's all we're asking. By taking this survey, you're giving the military community an opportunity to learn about who you are, to learn about what needs your family has, specifically who you are, what your family dynamic looks like, because people may never know, and they can't serve you efficiently if they don't know who you are. So allow Blue Star families to get to know you. And definitely you can always reach out to me. I mean, you see me everywhere and I'm always available to chat. If there's ever an issue, I want people to just feel welcome, because this is all of our community. It belongs to us. This is the life that we live. And, we deserve to feel welcome.
Thank you so much, Marla, for that. One of the things I don't have to say it, but I just feel like I should say it. And it is that, not by any chance are we trying to say that we don't love the military. I did 24 years and I did not do that and spend that amount of time if I was not truly in love with what I did. But like any family, and I do consider us a family, is no family is perfect. And so when we want to do better, we talk about it and we have the uncomfortable conversations. And I know that the topic of race can be so uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me at times to talk about it, but it's just so imperative. And it's so important that we discuss it. We talk about allyship, how we all can just, even if you're not a person of color, you still have such value to this conversation as we discuss allyship. And I had the opportunity to sit down in the last few weeks and talk to a retired 4-star commander, and he was white. He is white, and he talked to me about having no idea that these issues existed, and didn't have the idea because he never asked the question. So he did take some type of accountability if I didn't ask, and he was almost embarrassed. As a matter of fact, he said to me, "I'm embarrassed that I didn't know." And he actually reached out to a few of his old command sergeant majors who were, people of color, and said, "Did you experience this?" And they told yes. They admitted finally yes, and how they coped and how they deal with it. But that's just to me the true definition of what allyship is. And as we have these uncomfortable conversations, because ultimately we want everyone to be treated with dignity and respect and to feel welcome. And so I don't know if Cindy want to talk any more about data and what we're doing, but I just think this is a great opportunity because the Department of Defense is listening. They want to hear from the people. They want to hear from the service members, the military families, to say, are you experiencing this? And the more people we hear back from, the more data that Cindy was saying that we collect, and the more that we can report these things to talk about how do we stop incident from happening that happened on Capitol Hill? How do we continue to make family members feel welcome? And so, Cindy, I'll turn it back to you. We can do full circle to close it out or to continue the conversation.
It's been great hearing all of your experiences and your passion around the issue. I'm like a research nerd. I'm an Army wife research nerd. So how I found this great opportunity at Blue Star Families just blows my mind. But one of the things you think about is we actually don't know the numbers of military families of color. There is nowhere that information doesn't exist. We can't say that 30% of active duty families of color are African American. That number doesn't exist out there. So what we're saying about this is groundbreaking research. It really, really is, because this is a jumping off point, not just for Blue Star Families, but our partners for policy recommendations. We are diverting resources, or this is not the time for this. We can't say that anymore. We have to do this now. Otherwise, we're going to stay where we're at, invisible. These invisible populations, we don't even know the number of how many people are out there that are experiencing these issues. So it is so vital. We're so excited to see what I just love, Marla, what you were saying about tell your story. This is all of our stories. We've all are so, connected, and we're so proud to be a part of this population and to be an Army spouse of color. And it can be, sometimes you're like, wow, I'm the only one in the room, but how do we get more of us in the room? It's just, we have to find our voice, and this is a way to do it. So I just encourage you all. In addition, you will see a report out in October with findings that will be published on our website and have policy recommendations to the people that are listening, because like CT said, DOD is listening. Other military serving organizations and veteran serving organizations are listening. So it's just so important. If you have any questions about the survey, you can always reach out, or want to tell more of your story to us, please contact us. But that's about it for me. Anyone else have anything else to say?
Well, I would say this if Koby and Marla don't have anything to say. It is just so important to take this survey. You have a voice. We talk, don't complain about it if you won't do anything about it. So do something, take the survey. when I think about inclusion, and I'll leave you with this, everyone talk about how you're invited to the party. Well, it's not enough to be invited to the party if no one's dancing. So it's important to me that when you're invited to the party, that we play diverse music so that everyone is dancing. So when you think about inclusion, that's kind of what I think about. And, something I just wanted to share with everyone. We want everyone to be able to dance at the party, not just to be invited.
CT, I'll jump in here and I'll say information is important and participation is important. And that's why surveys like this are so important, because they really are groundbreaking. The kinds of questions that Blue Star Families is asking, the access that Blue Star Families and other organizations like the American Red Cross and other organizations have to the ear of the commands is pretty unique. So, if you were one of those service members, or are one of those military family members of color that feel like you don't have a place to have your voice heard, or you may perhaps feel like if speaking out, you may somehow hurt the career of your service member, this is a place where you can speak out, and this is a place where your voice will be heard. And we can guarantee you that Blue Star Families will get this report in front of the key influencers and decision makers inside of the Pentagon. That is guaranteed. So your voice will be heard inside the building, and to CT's point, unless you're dancing, it may not count. So get out there and get the survey and make sure that your voice is heard and everybody's dancing. Thanks, CT.
I just want to jump in and piggyback off of Koby. This is more than just a survey for families. This is for service members as well. And the unique and the best part to me about it is that it's confidential. You don't have to release your personal information if you don't want to. You don't have to put your name. You don't have to speak about any specific instances in great detail if you don't want to. This is a survey for everyone, not just families, but for active duty, for veterans, for retirees. We need to hear from everyone, because when we do that, we can understand not only the climate that we've had in the past, but how to progress going forward, what we can do to change things, what we can do to make our community more inclusive. And that goes for everyone. I would love to see all of my friends take this survey, because all of my friends are from diverse backgrounds, and you guys all have a voice. You have an opportunity to speak and to be heard. And like I said, this goes beyond command climate. So if you have an issue doing a command climate survey, you don't have to worry about that here, because it is not going to your commander.